Hello, today's Bible study comes from Luke chapter 19, verses 45 through 48. It is short. It is also the end of Luke chapter 19. Amen. Keep going with us. It comes from verses 45 through 48. It's stated and it reads as follows. When Jesus entered the temple courts, he began to drive out those who were selling. It is written, he said to them, "My house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." Every day he was teaching at the temple, but the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the leaders among the people were trying to kill him. Yet they could not find any way to do it because all the people hung on his words. Amen. And I love this part because it tells you Jesus was always at work doing his Father's work. His conversation out his mouth was about his Father. When Jesus entered the temple courts, he began to drive out those who were selling. They weren't doing what the temple courts were used for and supposed to be used for. They were doing profits for them. They were doing things that would get their gain. And when you come up to God, it is for his gain. And if you look in John, the second chapter, when he's talking about the cleansing of the temple courts, it just sounds like something Jesus had to do. You know how we are. The simple fact is you had these merchants there trying to sell products and were cheating people. And they were doing this along with the priests. They were cheating the visitors that came to Jerusalem and had them purchasing things they didn't need. Uh, just just things that were not of the way of the Lord. When you are cheating somebody, you are not doing God's work. So Jesus had to come out and get them. And Jesus was angry also against those who bought as well as those who sold it. See, the sellers and the viewers, the sellers and the buyers, both were sinning in the temple, doing the wrong thing. They had a spirit that was alike because I'm sure they knew that this was a temple of God and this is not what occurs here. So both were doing activities that were not supposed to happen in the house of the Lord. And this was not going to happen with Jesus standing there. Ooh, man. Forgive me. Jesus was making sure that we understood what the Lord's temple was for. But he said, "My house is a house of prayer." And they were operating there. Don't forget the merchants were there. They were in the center court. This is where the Gentiles could come and pray. So this place of prayer was made into a marketplace. Hold up. If I'm coming to pray and give God praise and tell the Lord about my troubles and worries and leave my burdens with him, you can't be over here doing things that are not pleasing to God at that time and in that place. And it was a dishonest place, or as he said, a den of thieves. And in the NIV, it calls it a den of robbers. So then it goes on to tell you, what was Jesus doing while he was still there? Every day. Every day he was teaching at the temple. But the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the leaders among the people were trying to kill him. You know, you have to wonder why In the New Testament, there are so many books that are written to church-going folks. When you see these letters and epistles and everything, they're to church-going folks. They're to churches. And look what these so-called church-going folks were doing. Because Jesus was doing what he was supposed to do. Listen to what the Messiah was doing. Every day he was teaching at the temple. So right after that verse, it should say, but the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the leaders among the people were trying to learn more about God. That's what it should have said. Can you imagine the Messiah sitting there giving you the word and you're not trying to learn it and take it in? But let's go back to carnal man and his heart of greed and hatred and envy and lust and all these other things that we let spill out over into this body when we let our flesh win over our spirit. It says, but the chief priest, so-called priest, the teachers of the law, so they know the law. The law spoke of Jesus. Jesus was the fulfillment of the Old Testament. The Old Testament speaks of the coming of Christ. So the teachers of the law who knew of the coming of Christ and the leaders, the big shots, the high up, the mighties, the well-to-dos among the people, they weren't just trying to yell at him or anything like that. They were trying to kill him. Do you know how evil and angry you would have to be to try to kill someone just because they're teaching? Trying to help people, had been showing compassion, had fed people, had cast out demons, had brought people back to life, had seen people do great things when they believed. How could you be mad at that? You know, when we look in Galatians and it talks about the fruit of the Spirit, don't forget about the verses above it when it talks about man's ways. That's how we keep doing it, because we don't go for God, we go for flesh. And they were plotting to kill him, but see, his death was already set. They weren't going to be able to kill him even if they thought about it, plotted it, because he was going to be crucified. Yes, they could not find any way to do it. Not their way. And the reason is because all the people hung on his word. In short, all the people wanted to hear him. They were attentive. They were inquisitive. They wanted to know what this man who they had seen do all these great things had to say. What teaching could he teach us? What ways could he show us? Remember when he healed all the sick? It didn't say all the believers. It said all the sick. They wanted to see and hear him. And oh yeah, that took my ego and pride away, because the big shots, the leaders, the high priest, and the Pharisees wasn't getting that attention that they so much thrive for. Give all your attention to Christ, as we all should. Amen.